All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I would like to welcome everyone to today's FAST-TRAK training lab. Today's session is brought to you by TRAKnet Cloud. And take your TRAKnet anywhere you have an internet connection with TRAKnet Cloud. My name is Tony. I am the TRAKnet client trainer. And joining me today is Erica. Everybody is going to be in listen-only mode. In this webinar, we'll be covering questions which you as our clients have when using TRAKnet. All users will be in listen-only mode, so please post all questions to the questions box on the webinar menu. I also want to have everyone make sure that their TRAKnet is up to date. I have the current TRAKnet version on the screen for us. And we can check that TRAKnet version by going to Help and either clicking Check for Application Updates or clicking the About button, which is going to bring up your version number. All right, Erica, can you go ahead and please start us off with our first question?
Sure. The first question here is, how do I send CCDAs to the specialized registries?
Okay, sending CCDAs to the specialized registry has been made fairly easy in TRAKnet. The first thing we're going to want to do is generate our CCDA report, which is under Reports, Specialized Registries. If you are working with Wound Care or MedExpress, you'll want to select that registry. Any other registries, you can leave that as none. It simply denotes which registry that you're going to use. And then with MedExpress, since it is integrated, it's going to give you the ICD-10 codes that MedExpress wants already listed right in there. We're going to go with Wound Care. And it may take me a moment to find an encounter. There we go. Once we have our encounters searched, we can select the encounters that we want to send over to our registry. If you're working with MedExpress, MedExpress is integrated into TRAKnet. You can place in your MedExpress account information under the integration in options. That'll allow you to directly upload them straight to MedExpress. All other registries, we're going to export, select a location to save that information, and it's going to create a CCDA batch for you. That'll be placed in the location that you selected. You'll take these files and upload them to your registry. The registries themselves will be able to provide you with information on how to upload your files to the specific registry. All right, our next question.
Okay, how do I complete objectives 8 and 9 of meaningful use?
All right. It's an excellent question. Objective 8 is sending the patient a summary of their visit within 4 business days. So objective 8, measure 1, has to be completed within 4 business days. That can be done by going down to patient engagement, selecting your summary CCDA, and going over to actions and clicking send to portal. And that's going to send that message over to the HealthVault patient portal. HealthVault will use the patient's email address and send them a message, let them know they have a message at HealthVault. They can go, the patient will then be able to go to HealthVault, sign up for an account if they don't already have one, or sign into their account if they do have one, and then review the message that was sent to them. It is important for Objective 8, Measure 1, that the patient has an email address. If they do not have an email address in TRAKnet, you won't be able to send out that summary because there won't be any way to notify them that they have that secured message available for them. Now, Measure 8B requires that the patient goes into that email, goes over to HealthVault, and looks at your information. TRAKnet and HealthVault work together to track when those messages have been read. So TRAKnet will be updated automatically when a patient goes in and reads that message. So there's not really anything we can physically do for Objective 8, Measure 2, aside from just encouraging the clients to review their messages that they receive. Now, objective 9 is one client has to respond back. So once they've read that message, they click the reply button and they respond back, and that comes into TRAKnet.
Okay.
Give it a moment here. Looks like my TRAKnet. Yep, there it goes. I'll have to give it a moment to download the messages, and I'll show how to bring those into TRAKnet. There we are. So we have our messages that indicate we sent out a message to Health Vault, and then we have our messages that indicate we received one back. So this here, with this email address, indicates that this is coming from a patient. We can import that by clicking Import Message. This here is just to indicate that I've imported it previously. There we go. Since in this case there's no email to match, we'll need to search our patient. Select the patient that we're going to import it to and click Import. That's going to bring that over to the Secure Messages tab of the patient's chart, and then that will report for Objective 9. All right. Next question.
All right, perfect. How can I modify the dashboard in TRAKnet, and can I set a specific dashboard as my default?
Okay. Yeah, modifying the dashboards definitely have many benefits. It can allow the user to see exactly what they want. There's two ways to modify the dashboard. The best and quickest way is going to be just clicking the Edit button here on the Workspace tab. And it's going to take you right over to the dashboard you're currently on. So you can modify that. The modifications work the same as with any encounter or mini template. I recommend copying the tables and pasting them. It's a little hard to keep the tables uniform by creating tables, but you can do tables, you can do without tables. It really is up to the person who's creating their dashboard as to how they want it to look. The second way to access it's going to be through our username and manage templates, and that's going to be under the template type dashboards, and you can modify any of the dashboards from there. Once you have a dashboard set up the way you want, of course we want to be able to see it every time we go to a patient, so we would go to My Settings and change the default dashboard to the dashboard that you would like to use. Click Update and close it, and then going forward, when you load a patient, it will load to the dashboard that you selected for your default dashboard.
Okay, thank you. How can I modify the dashboard in TRAK? Oh, well, that's not what I meant to say. How do I embed a treatment code on an encounter template?
Okay. Embedding a treatment code on an encounter template is done from Manage Templates. We'll select the encounter that we want to embed that treatment code in. So we'll just go with our SOAP template for the moment. And we type in a square bracket, then the treatment code that we want to have, and another square bracket. When we click Update, TRAKnet's going to recognize those square brackets and change that to a link. When you create an encounter using that template, TRAKnet will automatically pull in the template behind that link and add that code to your invoice right when you start that encounter. That process can also be used to add the treatment codes to mini templates as well, and that's a really good way to kind of set up for your billing for your plan and other items like that, where you can put that treatment code in, so every time that you use your plan, it automatically drops that treatment code in for you.
Okay, perfect. How can I add payment types to TRAKnet?
All right. Payment types are added through the properties under payment types. TRAKnet comes with a set of them preloaded in. The ones that are preloaded in are used in most cases specifically throughout TRAKnet, such as the adjustments and automated clearinghouse. All that is used by the system. For adding a new one, we just click Add, type in the name we want to have for our description, and select who can use the payment, who will see that payment type when they're doing a payment. And then once we're done, click Save.
Okay, thank you, Tony. When typing a phone message, why doesn't the message go away from the task list once it is marked as completed? Our list continues to grow unless we delete.
Okay. If we're up to date and we're working on the same task list, this is what your task list is going to look like here. And when you're looking at your My Tasks and something has been completed, it'll be taken off of the My Tasks. So when you're working with them, if you're not seeing this screen here, we would want to look for an update to TRAKnet, and that'll bring you up to date to the current task list. Once tasks are marked completed on the current task list, they should be removed from My Tasks. Now they're going to show up in other places like All Tasks, because All Tasks is showing all tasks. We can filter out certain information out of these, but it is all tasks, so it's going to show all tasks. And you can see your completed tasks under completed tasks so that you can go back and review them. But under the My Tasks, they'll no longer show once they're marked completed.
Okay, thank you. And how to enter the SPI in TRAKnet?
Okay, entering an SPI is quite of a lengthy process now that we have requirements for prescribing narcotics. First, we're going to want to verify that our users have permission to request an SPI user change for SPI and NPI. That's going to be checked under user on the e-prescribing tab. It's going to be this checkbox here. Now you notice this checkbox is grayed out because the user logged in cannot modify their own permissions. So I'm not able to change whether or not I have permission or not. Someone else has to change that. So here on this user, we could check or uncheck it depending on what permission level we want them to have. Once a user has permission, they can go to the e-prescribing tab under providers and users, select the provider they're going to be putting the change in for. In this case, again, it cannot be the user that's logged in that's putting in for the change. So I'm logged in as TRAKnet trainee. I cannot propose a change for TRAKnet trainee because that's who I'm logged in under. So let me go ahead and log in under a different user here. There we go. So now we can see we get that proposed change request. We click the proposed change request and we put in the proposed change. And then a second user has to log in, go to pending change requests and click respond to change request. Verify the information is correct and click the accept to accept that change to that information. So that would be how we'd get the SPI in using that method. The first user comes in, puts in the proposed change request. The second user comes in, goes to pending, and responds to the change request. And neither of those two users can be the provider that is having their information changed.
All right. How to add to the Smartsheet 10?
Okay, there's a couple ways to add items to your Smartsheet 10. The first way is going to be through the built-in Smartsheet 10 program. And this way is going to allow you to search your ICD-10 codes by ICD-9 gems. So if I wanted to do a diabetic code, I can look up. This is going to give us a lot of information in just a little bit of space. So we're seeing a couple different colors. The green is a one-to-one match. So in this case, it's always going to be this one ICD-10 code. The yellow is a one-to-few match. So it's going to be one of these ICD-10 codes. And the orange is a one-to-many match. So it's going to be a larger number. In this case, we also have a 7th character as well. Here, once we've got the ICD-10 code that we want to have, we click the Add to Smartsheet. We either select an existing Smartsheet, or we can type in a new Smartsheet name. In this case, I'm going to go with the existing Smartsheet. We can choose that this is a one-click select. So if this is an instance where you're always going to click just this code, you won't need any other codes. You can click one-click select. It's going to allow us to just click it once and add it to the encounter. And then we're going to click Add to Practice Favorites. Now, you can click Add to My Favorites, but I recommend not doing so. When you add it to My Favorites, you're the only person that can see it on a Smartsheet. So everybody will be doing work to add them to it if everyone's clicking Add to My Favorites, because nobody else will be able to see there. So I recommend using Add to Practice Favorites and separating them out using Smartsheets. Another nice feature of the Smartsheet 10 is the I-10 to I-9 gems. Here you can look up the ICD-9 code from the ICD-10 code.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Well, hold on, we got a little bit more.
Okay.
There we go. I apologize, I don't use this one very frequently, so I clicked the wrong button. So we can see here where we have the ICD-9 equivalent to that ICD-10 code. Let's just look up backwards. So if you're working with ICD-10 and you need to find the ICD-9 code, you can do so. The second place is going to be through the encounter. On the Diagnosis tab, here we also have an ICD-9 to ICD-10 gems, and it works very similarly. We search. Here it doesn't give us quite the level of information. We don't get the color coding, but we can add that to our Smartsheet by clicking Favorite, selecting the Smartsheet, and clicking Add to Practice Favorites.
All right. And how to export all of the encounters for a patient.
Okay. Exporting the encounters for a specific patient can be done through Tools, Print Encounters Batch. You'll want to search for your patient and the date range you're looking for. So if you're wanting to do all of them for a patient, you'd want to look to see what date range their encounters are in. Once you've loaded up your encounters, you can either select the encounters that you want to have, or you can use the Select All feature to select them all. Click your options, hover over the export, and then here we have the choice of which way we want to export that. We can export an encounter to a file or a PDF, and then we can also export a super bill from that encounter to a file, PDF, or XML, depending on what your needs are. Once you've selected it, you'll be asked for a place to store it. And that file will be available in the location that you saved it in.
Okay. The next question here is TRAKnet compatible with Windows 10 and or Windows tablets?
Okay, yep, TRAKnet is definitely compatible with Windows 10. TRAKnet is compatible with all Windows operating systems that are Windows 7, 8, and 10, and any server operating systems that are based on those Windows operating systems as well. They can run on any device running those operating systems. So as long as your tablet has Windows 10 or Windows 8 on the tablet, TRAKnet will be compatible with it. If it's running like a Windows mobile operating system, that may not be compatible unless it's a Windows 8 or 10 mobile, and then it should be compatible with TRAKnet as well.
Okay, perfect. How to add a new user in TRAKnet?
Okay, new users are added in to the properties screen under users. We simply click the add button and enter in their demographic information. For just a user, we want to stick to just the top section. The required are the first and last name and username and a password. And also important to note when adding a user, this would also be when you would select whether or not that user has a schedule or not. So if you don't want the user to have a schedule in TRAKnet, you'll want to make sure to switch that to false.
Okay, and then how to add a new provider in TRAKnet as well.
Okay. Adding the provider is the exact same as with adding the user. A couple key differences is we're going to want to use the address the provider is going to be billing for, so it's generally the practice address for the provider's address. And we will want to fill out the provider information section. The provider info section determines to TRAKnet that it's a provider and also provides the necessary billing information for insurances. So we need to make sure that information is entered in and to determine what practice information the provider is going to use. And then also, I forgot to mention on the users, when you're creating the user, you may also want to come to the permission screen and set their permissions. We recommend removing the time clock and users permissions from most users. The only people that should really have those would be office managers and providers.
Okay, perfect. And how to remove a patient?
Okay, patients should generally not be removed from TRAKnet. Like with anything else in the system on the property screen, patients are connected to different documents that are connected to payments, connected to encounters, connected to vitals, all sorts of different documents in your TRAKnet system, so they really should not be deleted from the system. If we come across a situation where a patient's been duplicated, there's two patients that are the same patient, we can come to our merge patient to bring them together into one patient. That's going to combine all the documents to that one patient. If the patient's demographic information, maybe their name is entered wrong or maybe a wrong birth date or something like that, that information can all be updated, so we would want to just go ahead and update that information. If there is a case where it is absolutely necessary to remove a patient, it can be done from the property screen under Patients, searching the patient, and using the Remove button. But I would highly recommend checking if it's a duplicate patient, merging them. If there's patient information that's wrong on the patient, updating the demographics. And then if it's a patient that's just no longer coming to the practice anymore, marking the patient as inactive rather than removing them, because that can cause problems with different documents throughout TRAKnet.
Okay, very well, Tony. Thank you. How or where to view logins for TRAKnet?
Okay, I'm going to assume that by that question I mean a history of logins, who's logged in, when, and where. That's going to be under our Tools, under our Audit Log section, and under Logins. You can select a date range, and you can select whether to see failed only or all logins, and I'll show you who's logged in, when it was failed, the reason it was failed, all that information.
Okay, cool. How to send a patient to collections.
Okay,
And
sending a
I'm sorry. And also, is there a pop-up that will tell you that a patient is in collections?
okay. Sending a patient to collections is a matter of opening their demographics, going to the billing section, and marking the date to collections. This is going to put that patient in collections as of that date. And I definitely recommend also when you set a date to collections, you set send statement to false so that you're not sending them a statement and having them in collections at the same time. For an alert for the patients that are in collections, there is not a pop-up alert. The best I could advise on that would be using the alerts button to add that pop-up to the patient whenever you open it. The alerts is going to be a good way to do that. That alert will pop up anytime you try to work with the patient. So when you try to search them for a schedule, when you try to open their chart, that's going to pop up that alert indicating to you that that patient is in collections through that alerts button.
Okay. And how to change the MPI in box 17B on the CMS form.
Okay, the NPI for box 17B is going to be our referring providers NPI. To change that, we're going to go over to Properties, Referring Providers. We'll want to search for the provider that we want to change our NPI on. Bring up the demographic editor, and then change their NPI. Once we've changed it, we click Save, and that'll update that information on the patient's claim.
Okay. How to delete a payment.
Okay, payments can be deleted in two places. The first place is going to be on the patient's chart under billing. You can delete a patient payment from the ledger on payments. This will allow you to delete an individual patient's payment. It will not allow you to delete any insurance payments. So this would only work if you're looking for a specific patient's payment to delete. The second place is going to be on our billing dashboard under payments. We can search for our payment and then remove any payments that we need to remove just by clicking that remove button. So we can go right here, click remove. It's going to ask us for a reason, and then it removes that payment.
All right, thank you. Looks like we may have room for another one here. Why do I get an unable to encrypt file message when I try to send a claim?
Okay, an unable to encrypt file message is going to be an indication that it was not able to complete the sending process. It can be a number of different things that will cause that. The main one we find is that Java is either not installed or has quit functioning. So a quick uninstall and reinstall of Java will usually fix that. The other reasons would be that the user does not have permission to the files that are used to encrypt, or that we don't have access to the gateway FTP site. Now, a TRAKnet user can check for Java on their computer. You just go to your control panel and look for Java under Programs, and you'll see Java installed. Checking the FTP site for gateway is a little more difficult. For checking the FTP site or checking the permissions to the folders, if you're not familiar with how to do so, I would just recommend giving support a call, and they can help you with checking that information. But in most cases, it's Java not being installed or not properly running that causes that problem. All right, looks like that is all we have time for today. I'm going to bring up some information on the screen here. This is our YouTube page and our wiki page. These are great places for resources for TRAKnet. The wiki page goes through all of the different TRAKnet pages, and the YouTube page has videos from both TRAKnet training and from CPS, which provide both help with use of the program and practice management. Our client success team will reach out to those whose questions were not answered after the webinar. And then please join us again in 2 weeks for another FAST-TRAK training lab. Have a wonderful afternoon.